Hey everybody, it's me, Crazyfrankie, and I'd like to welcome you to my Week 14 4 key game picks. A lot of things that went on in week number 13, so many things here. I wish I could have a full segment to talk about this, but I want to get to my picks here, so I'll just give these quick thoughts on what happened in week number 13. Obviously, one of the stories, Mike McCarthy got fired from the Green Bay Packers after the Cardinals went and upset them. I personally think everybody has their opinion whether that the Packers should have waited till the end of the season to do this. But I kind of respect what the Packers did. They wanted to just get this out of the media as badly as possible because the Packers, the way they were playing right now, they were basically on the verge of being eliminated from playoff contention regardless. Because really, the whole team just quit on them. Just quit on McCarthy. There's no question. And part of it, I also blame Aaron Rodgers, too, because he has no help around them. I mean, the way their record is, the Packers were just flat out terrible this entire season. The only highlight they had was week 1 when they beat the Bears in a comeback win. Since then, they have done nothing. And they've been fortunate enough to win one Super Bowl as his tenure as McCarthy's tenure as coach. But obviously, the Packers definitely have to move on, and obviously they got to work a lot in the draft now. Other things that went on. Big win for the Chargers last week against the Steelers. And it really helps out the Chargers a lot to make a very, very critical matchup with the Chiefs in Week 15 that may decide the AFC West division. Regardless right now, the Chiefs may be holding the number 1 seed right now. But the way the Chargers are playing, and obviously with the situation and what's going on after what happened with Kareem Hunt, the Chiefs the Chiefs still kind of have distractions. And they barely beat the Raiders last week. Even though they're hanging on to that 1 seed and all that, this team there might be some downfalls, there might be some problems right now for this Chiefs team. And that, if you're a Chiefs fan right now, this is the last thing you need to worry right now. The fact that this Chiefs team could be starting to fall as you're heading towards the end of the season and you want to make a good playoff push. So I don't know, if you're a Chiefs fan, you should be worried. And you got the Chargers right on your tail. And in the way it's looking right now, if you look at the schedule for this week, I expect the Chargers to beat the Bengals. The Chiefs should easily win their game as well. And it's really going to provide a lot of pressure on the AFC West now if you're the Chiefs. Now, I know a lot of you are probably wondering, the Chargers got lucky in a win. Yes, I kind of agree with that. That false start penalty in the first half of that game, Chargers got away with it, and I really think that did cost Pittsburgh the game because now a lot of you are saying those offside penalties cost them the game. No, it was that false start penalty because Chargers got away with a false start, and they scored a touchdown off of it. Pittsburgh probably should have won by a touchdown. That touchdown should not have counted, and this is speaking from a Chargers fan here. I agree. I'm happy they won. But I do agree, the Pittsburgh kind of screwed themselves, really. And they should have taken advantage of it. Their defense fell apart in the second half. And now the Steelers could be in danger now, not only just falling out of the division lead in the AFC North, but the playoffs altogether if they don't win the remaining games. And their schedule is not in their favor. The Ravens' schedule was really, they're the only team that's competitive with the Steelers in that division. They are really on their tail. Big time. The NFC playoff picture pretty much is the pieces are starting to become put together now. The only competitive division left is really the NFC East. Redskins, Eagles, and Cowboys all vying for that division. But it looks like the Cowboys, the way they dismantled the Saints, which was a shocker, they pretty much may wrap up the division. And AFC-wise, it's really the 6th spot that's up for grabs right now. You got the Dolphins, you got the Colts, and you got the Titans also vying for that spot. Anyways, let's get into week number 14, shall we? Let's begin with key game number 1. It is the Baltimore Ravens versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Significance of this game for both these two teams. The Ravens are currently the 6th seed in the AFC Conference. The Chiefs trying to keep their one-game lead on the Chargers. Not only that, for home field advantage as well. And so, yeah, this game is vitally important. Lamar Jackson, this is assuming that if he continues his role. Now, Flacco, still a game-time decision. But then again, the way Lamar Jackson's playing, does Harbaugh really want to go back to Flacco? I don't know. I think you got to stay with the hot hand here. And speaking of Lamar Jackson, 12 of 21, 125 yards, no touchdowns or interceptions. Mahomes last week against the Raiders, 23 of 38, 295 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions. What are the chances of this being a game? Oh, I forgot to mention the Chiefs are a 7.5-point favorite in this one. And I actually kind of agree with that. I think 7.5 is just about right. Now, how do the Ravens pull the upset here? Their defense has got to come up big. They got to get to Mahomes if they want to stop him. Because remember, the Chiefs are kind of with no Hunt because of off-the-field issues. I will not get into that because it's a whole different subject. Ravens defense has some hope to stop it. I mean, the Raiders did a good job on Kansas City to hold them at bay, even though they didn't beat them. But the way the Chiefs are playing right now, you got to have some momentum now. You really got to keep the team intact. They got to keep the team intact. Chances of this game being close, there's a chance this game could be close. But in reality here, I think this is where this is where now the debate's going to come in during this game. If the Chiefs get into a big sizable lead in this game, and do they go back to Joe Flacco here? I think, to me, that's really, for me, is enough to say the Chiefs are going to win this game here. Their offense, everything. I think they'll keep everything together. This game might be sort of close. Chiefs are at home. They're good at home, and I just can't go against them when they're in their building. And I definitely got to go with the Chiefs here. Chiefs over the Ravens. Key game number 2, the Indianapolis Colts versus the Houston Texans. I never thought I'd be seeing the Colts now really coming back to life and now becoming more relevant again. Now, last week, though, they hit a bump on the road with the Jaguars. They lost in a very low-scoring game, which really, that was kind of a shocker, the way the Colts were on a winning streak, and yet they hit a bump on the road, losing to the Jaguars. Luck last week went 33 of 52, 248 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 interception. Now, the Texans, they had an easy game with the Browns. Watson, 22 of 31, 224 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. The Texans are a 4.5-point favorite in this one. That number might go to 4. If the Texans think they have this game easy, I don't think so. Now, the Colts may have had a bad game against Jacksonville, but I think the Colts might be ready for this one here. And this is a game the Colts have to stay alive into the hunt for that last playoff spot in the AFC Conference. Houston's already on a roll. Even if they lose this game, they'll still be ahead in that division. The AFC South really isn't competitive at all, other than because the Texans are they're basically up on 2 games on both the Titans and the Colts. So even if somehow the Texans lose this game, I mean, they'll still be in good shape to win the division, in my opinion. But the Colts need this game a lot because their playoff hopes are riding on this one here. Really tough pick here. Tough to say who wins this game, but I'm going to go with the Houston Texans here. I think the Texans will beat the Colts. They'll sweep the series here. They beat them in the first meeting in Indianapolis, but I expect this game to be much tighter. But I like the Texans in this one. I think this game will be close, but I'm going to go with the Texans here. Texans over the Colts. Key game number 3, the Monday night game, the Minnesota Vikings and the Seattle Seahawks. The significance of this game could be, let me repeat, could be determining the 5th and 6th seed right there. Whoever has this advantage here, who wins this game, probably more than likely could lock up the 5th seed right here. Now, the Vikings and Kirk Cousins last week in a loss to the Patriots, he went 32 of 44, 201 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. That was a big stat right there, and a big loss last week to the Pats. Now, the Seahawks, of course, They playing the 49ers. They destroyed them in that game last week. Wilson went 11 of 17, 185 yards, 4 touchdowns. Wow. Despite all that, Seattle, the Seahawks are a 3.5-point favorite in this one. I agree with it. Seattle lately, they are really peaking at the right time. Their offense really, the whole team has gathered themselves together, even though despite that little bump on the road with the Chargers a few weeks ago. This team now, especially at home, Minnesota really needs this game badly right now because their chances of winning the NFC North may be fading away if the Bears continue to play well. Now, technically, the NFC North is still up for grabs here. But the way the Vikings offense has played, I mean, they look like they're it's kind of like a roller coaster. You know, they're playing good at one point, and yet in another game they're playing badly. It's really tough to say here for this Minnesota Vikings team, especially when you're on the road and you're going up to Seattle. And the way the Seahawks are playing right now, I like the Seahawks in this one here. I'm basing the fact that because Seattle's offense, and they're really getting into a groove here, and they're getting hot at the right time. And if they stay into the lock of that 5 seed by winning this game, there's no question whoever is the 4th seed, and by looks of it, it could be the Cowboys. I don't know if I want to face Seattle in that wild card game. But going into this game, Seattle's offense, they're just too much intact here. I don't think Minnesota's defense is going to stop them in this one here. I like the Seahawks in this one. Seahawks over the Vikings. And finally, key game number 4, and speaking of the NFC East, the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys are a 4-point favorite in this one, and I sort of agree. Carson Wentz last week in a game that they had to have over the Redskins. He went 27 of 39, 306 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Prescott in that big upset win over the Saints, 24 of 28, 248 yards last week, 1 touchdown, and no interceptions. The way the Cowboys are playing right now, they're another team that is getting hot at the right time. And this game could not be more critical for the Eagles, just not only to just stay alive in the playoff hunt, but their only shot to get in by winning the division. The defending champions really have not played up to par standards. I mean, obviously they've had injury issues, but when you're heading towards the end of the season, they can't use that as an excuse. And the Cowboys are playing at a much better rate. Their offense has improved much more dramatically at the right time. Their defense, I didn't think, would be playing much better than I anticipated. This game is tough for the Eagles here. Their schedule is not in their favor the rest of the way. They need this game just to stay alive. But the way the Cowboys are playing right now, I like the Cowboys in this one. It pains me because I like the Philadelphia Eagles too. But it just seems to me that Dallas's offense really is just better than Philadelphia's. And their defense is just as much better as Philadelphia's. And the Cowboys have an advantage here. And I got to go with the Dallas Cowboys in this one to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Cowboys over the Eagles. All right, everybody. That wraps up my picks for week number 13. For all of week 14, excuse me, brain fart right there. And before I go, I want to mention something here. I got a comment last week on my video regarding why do I bother putting point spread if I'm basing it basically on who I think is going to win and not why I would take an over and under. Personally though, I know it's not necessary for me to put the over and to put the point spread. If I'm going to take the over and under, go to a real expert on that if you're into gambling and all that. I understand that sports gambling is now going to be a common factor in our lives, but really when you take down to it, look, these point spreads are just basically numbers by odds makers who consider who they think will win a particular sport, a particular game that they're playing. I'm not a wizard in that, okay? If you want to go to that, call those hotlines to get the fact to see who they think they'll take the over and under. Okay, I don't care what you say about it. It's none of your business. I mean, I handle my videos the way I handle it. Anyways, enough of that. Enough of that crap. Guys, I'll see you guys next week when I talk about my picks for week number 15. And until then, take care and enjoy your football weekend.